given the fact that there is that growing consensus that one size fits all AI is not going to cut it anymore. There is generic AI, there is vertical AI. Are we going to enter a new domain specific AI solutions era?
Enterprises are solving problems which is nuanced, which requires a very, very specialized type of data and domain, and the more narrowness it has, the more precise way of solving the problem it is. So hence we also started seeing the journey from really large models to small and models.
Welcome to Discover Dialogues podcast, powered by TechDogs. The world of business and technology is evolving at breakneck speed. AI breakthroughs, digital transformation, and game-changing innovations are reshaping industries every day. On this show, we dive into the trends, ideas, and strategies driving the future. We're sitting down with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors to bring you fresh insights, bold perspectives, and real conversations that matter. So plug in, tune in, and let's discover what's next.
Today on the show, we're joined by Soumendra Mohanty, Chief Strategy Officer at Tredence, and a leader reshaping how enterprises turn data, AI, and domain expertise into scalable business outcomes. Over the past 25 plus years, Soumendra has held leadership roles across Accenture, Infosys, LTI, and Mindtree, building global data and analytics practices while guiding Fortune 500s through digital transformation. From large-scale AI strategy to startup agility, he's worked across the full spectrum of execution. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Discover Dialogues, Soumendra. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Vikram, thanks for having me, and I'm also equally excited.
So, Soumendra, let's rewind the clock a little. Before we get into enterprise AI execution gaps, I'd love to start with your professional journey. You've worked across some of the world's most respected tech and consulting giants, and today you are at the forefront of innovation at Tredence. So would love to understand your journey across Infosys, Accenture, Mindtree, L&T. I mean, we can just keep on talking, but would love to understand, your journey from you.
Well, I mean, you're making me a little nostalgic. Thanks for that. Many times we don't even get that perspective to rewind, to go back and then analyze and then reflect on it. But like any other techie, after campus, my first step was into TCS, right? And my upbringing was at that time, and you sink or swim, right? So you're thrown into the deep waters, and you figure out how to do it. Then Infosys happened. Infosys taught me multiple things, client centricity. How do you think about your accountability and responsibility to deliver things and to do things properly? The biggest probably and the longest I spent is in Accenture after that. And that's where was truly speaking, my grooming years from a leadership, from a strategy, from a consulting capabilities, the arms and ammunitions one should carry around. And a large part of credit of who I am today and where I am today goes to my years and the grindings that goes along with it in Accenture. And after a decade or odd years in Accenture, playing several global roles there, all in data and analytics area, got into Mindtree, and there Mindtree was also going through a certain phase of changes, and then they were trying to establish themselves as the first digital native company. Right. So, and that gave me a different perspective and then different learning and exposure. So I spent some time there, both leading practices and P&L and go-to-market strategies and all that. And, after a few years there, I went into LTI. And LTI, which is at that, L&T Infotech, to be precise, was mostly as a sister company of L&T, right, which is the biggest, the largest conglomerate on manufacturing, on and many things that they do. And they were trying to move away from a sister organization of a larger conglomerate to establish their own identity. And this is where it was data and AI and the forward looking transformation. So that's where I kind of delved deep into cloud and AI and then all of these things, and then helped build the practices around it, the capabilities around it. Along the way, I was involved in many acquisitions and mergers as the strategic portfolios, and actually acquired a lot of startups, managed them, but within the bigger umbrella of the parent company, but never had an opportunity to actually spend time in a startup with no safety net around, right? And that was something that was missing in my portfolio. And then Tredence happened, and Tredence called, and then I said, okay, why not go there and see all the learnings and all the the gray hairs by the time has started sprouting on. So how do I make best use of these gray hairs and for a company which is just growing up? Yeah. So and last 6 years almost in Tredence,
Right.
playing mostly innovation and strategy and a lot of company building, culture, all the aspects of it. So enjoying my journey so far. One thing common in this entire journey, and I'm hopeful that, and by grace of God, I'll continue to have that same spirit and momentum, is willingness to explore, willingness to learn, and willingness to exploit what you are learning without having a fear of failure, because failure is going to be there when you're dealing with innovation, newer things, and all that. So that's what has got me thus far, and I hope I continue in that momentum and spirit,
Yeah.
going forward.
You've had quite a illustrious and interesting career, right? So you started off with at the grassroots levels, if I was to say, and then you really build across those, bigger organizations where you've garnered those skill sets. And now you, like you said, you're trying to test where your gray hair, will be best put used to. And just to double click on this, right? So how have the last 6 years been for you in terms of that transition, if I was to say?
I think this is a very, very interesting question and very pertinent question as well. See, when you work in bigger companies, when you work in multinationals, and then wide spread out operations, and then organizational constructs, there are a lot of processes and safety nets around you. But when you come to a company which is just about to grow, and they have not yet figured out the complexities that they can deal with and what is coming on their way, the technology is moving probably much faster than the company is even willing to move at that speed. There's probably pretty much risks everywhere. Every turn, every decision you make, everything that you look into, a lot and lot of risks associated, right? So last 6 years has been, every day you recalibrate yourself. Every day you actually look into it from a very pragmatic perspective. You actually relook at the purpose, of the company, the purpose of why you are here and what you are doing, the purpose of how you're solving client problems, right? So there's a lot of less about you and more about the company, the people, the clients, and then all that. I think that is what the last 6 years has been, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
So now that we've set the stage with your journey, I'd love to zoom into one of the most pressing issues that you've been vocal about, right? And that issue is the widening gap between enterprise AI readiness. And what you said, it's just not a tech problem. It's actually a strategic problem. It's an organizational problem. It's even a cultural problem. And to that, I think Tredence also released the data and AI vision report, which talks about something called as the data Darwinism. Uh, I would love for you to unpack what that really means for today's enterprises.
I mean, it's we call it Agentic AI report as well, yeah, because that's the disruption that is right here and now, yeah. And secondly, I think this podcast and the time we got will be very short if I have to explain it in the way it is, right? But for our viewers and everybody else, there are five lenses one needs to apply, right? And obviously, we have to start with what is it that we are solving for, and with these newer technologies. It's not just because the technology is there and hence I must do something, right? It is about what is the purpose and what are you solving for. And this is where business value realization and the driver for businesses to adopt and gain advantage out of it, right? That's the first lens that we apply. The second lens is also about the technological readiness and the appropriateness of technology for the particular problem you're trying to solve. Now, just because generative AI, agentic AI, and machine learning algorithms are there, that you will actually put it to every single thing and then say, well, I've got the big hammer and then every single nail I can hit it. But it's maybe many times it is an overkill, and it may not actually effectively do things, right? So the appropriateness of technology and understanding the risks associated with it, looking at in two equal and important lenses, on that, and having a very pragmatic way of addressing those problems. The third lens that is cultural, right? That is primarily around look, in many ways, these technologies are new. In many ways, these technologies are also evolving very fast. Between 2022 November and now, you can imagine that the number of innovations that has happened, especially in AI, Gen AI, and agentic AI world, is mind-boggling, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The speed of innovation, and then every month there is something new, there is a new model, there is new something, there is new something. So it is actually chaotic, it is very mind boggling. So culturally also people need to understand, and people need to be aware of it and the pros and cons and then all that aspects. The fourth one is about governance. Now, just because it's a powerful technology, and obviously it can do many things, right? But that doesn't mean that it is not governed at all, because you're solving, and this is where, to your earlier point, the enterprise AI readiness, and there is a widening gap there, is because of that nature, that the problems you're solving is not about somebody's asking for a apparel or a cloth, and you're saying, well, the color pink will go well with you, and if it is wrong completely, it is not still earth shattering.
Right, absolutely.
But right, but for an enterprise, where if a machine goes down, and it's a very critical machine, your output and the productivity is going to cost billions of dollars,
Yeah, true.
right? So I'm just drawing two
Yeah,
parallels, yeah.
absolutely.
So that's where this governance, this ability to look inside what the model is predicting, what it is recommending, and how you should proceed with that. What are the thresholds around it, and that human in the loop to control, to govern, to nudge it in the right direction is extremely important. And because the models carry the biases, the data also has certain bias, and those biases can needs to be looked at minutely, and also you have to make it proper. Yeah. So that's the other lens that we apply, and combining it all together would be the operational lens, which is how do you take along the enterprise's maturity to a different level, and how do you have explainability into it? How do you, because there is all said and done, there are socio technological fear in people's mind that what's going to happen to my role, my job, what's going to happen to if I follow this, and if this is the recommendation coming out of the AI and I implement that, but things go wrong, then who is going to be on point? Is it me or the machine? Right. So these are a lot of these open-ended questions out there, and that is that whole point about data Darwinism. And Darwinism, we always relate to survival of the fittest, and here in a different way, right? It is have you understood all of these aspects that I talked about, and are you playing the game the right way?
Are you seeing data Darwinism play out already in certain industries more than others?
I would say yes, and for the right reason as well. So if you look at some of the highly regulated industries and very very sensitive industries like banking, there is money involved, money, a very very important thing, or healthcare, pharma, right? Those are the places where you, you cannot absolutely afford to go wrong on anything,
Absolutely.
right? Whereas for a retail or a CPG industry, there is certain margin of error that you can account for, and there is a tolerance limit around it. Travel and hospitality is another one which is not so highly regulated, but it touches individual consumers' well-being and comfortness, right? And hence the data Darwinism plays it in a different forms and shapes and I would say magnitude across these industries, but it is there in every industry.
Are there some companies who are or slash industries who are better at, say, merging that gap between AI execution and data Darwinism?
I would say the high tech industry, right? If you see tech media, telecom, and high tech industries, right, where all these hyperscalers like Google, AWS, and Azures of the world are there. They have probably better appetite for risk, and they of course do their best to safeguard those risks and take those survival of the fittest kind of a perspective, because they're at the forefront of innovation, and they have to take those risks. I think closely following that would be certain consumer centric businesses, because at the end of the day it is a B2C kind of a world they operate in, and that is where the entire business model is. To a certain extent retail, certain extent probably the retail side of the banking side of it, where we saw a lot of digital interventions early in the game, and then now they're just adopting the AI interventions there. So they have learned from their past mistakes, and then they've figured out how to play it in a safer way. Those would be the ones. I would say hospitality sector, meaning hotels and then entertainments, and then all those areas are probably a little better prepared versus industrial,
Got it.
right? Versus, like I said earlier, pharma and healthcare, where you cannot absolutely compromise on anything,
Absolutely.
right? Right? So that's where the maturity levels are playing out in bridging these gaps in a certain magnitude.
There's one more thing that's been a growing consensus around is that that one size fits all AI is not going to cut it anymore. There's this whole talk about vertical AI versus generic AI, for large enterprises who are really looking to scale, and we are in that era of scaling now in many ways, right? Because the earlier, I think the last couple of years have been more towards, and I called it out, even for an article that I read on Business Standard or I think on Economic Times. But I called it out that for the first couple of years, it was the smaller innovations, the more B2C, the voice chats, the audio, the videos, and then the true impact of AI was really going to come when the hyperscalers or the larger enterprises start building these solutions which are going to impact individuals like you and me, without even us realizing it. So I think my question is going to more evolve towards, given the fact that there is that growing consensus that one size fits all AI is not going to cut it anymore. There is generic AI, there is vertical AI. Are we going to enter a new domain specific AI solutions era?
I think there are interesting perspectives around it, and the camps are divided. Let me be very open about it. Look, in the last 3 years, there was a time. At least the initial time was, well, my model is the biggest. It has got trillions of parameters, billions and billions of parameters, and then all that, and hence the bigger was the better. But the bigger was the better was also very generic in purpose.
Hmm.
And while it probably appealed a lot to the laymaness, which is the direct consumers like you and me and everybody else, and we certainly gained a lot out of it. There is no doubt that innovation was powerful. But then when you zoom in into an enterprise way of looking at these innovation, enterprises are not solving very generic problems, right? Enterprises are solving problems which is nuanced, which requires a very, very specialized type of data, and domain, and the more narrowness it has, the more precise way of solving the problem it is. So hence we also started seeing the journey from really large models to small and models. Now the small models also were not very domain oriented, if you may, right? And hence there is a midway in somewhere. We saw a few innovations, like Bloomberg came out with a financial model,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? And I'm pretty sure that there were models for healthcare, models for pharma, because those are very domain rich and very nuanced models. So yes, that's why I said the camps are divided. But enterprises will always need very focused and very precise models, which could be large or could be small, right? But they have to be very domain oriented.
Hmm.
And there is a play of a lot of horizontal models which are solving specific problem areas which can increase productivity in doing those steps. Because end of the day, when you are building a really nice castle,
Hmm.
you still have to do the plumbing, you still have to do the machinery work, and then that has to be, those are horizontal works, and then those are needs to be also really really well done and tightly coupled.
Hmm.
So you will need those horizontal things on which your vertical domain models are going to stand up
Hmm.
and do the job that they were built for.
Hmm.
So that's why, in my view, yes, from the large models, bigger, powerful, but generalized models, the journey has already started to
Hmm.
smaller models, right, which are specific in nature.
Hmm.
And we will also see that moving further down into a micro models, which are going to happen on my iPhone, your iPhones, and then everybody's iPhone, right? So that is where it is going to be.
In many ways, I think I could also equate this to, they call it the T-shaped model, the T-shaped model of knowledge. So you would have a model which is generic enough to do things, but at the same time, it'd be very verticalized and very domain rich and specific. So it allows you to focus on those things. Would I be right to say that?
Yeah, I think you will have a breadth of thing that needs to happen. And then you need to have a speciality that goes into, I would say, the mile depth.
Hmm.
So inch wide and mile depth,
Got it. Got it. Got it.
because that's where the real problems of industry that you are going to solve.
Let's fast forward a bit. Okay, let's go into the future. Say about 2 years from now. What do you think is for the organizations who've cracked this? You've reduced the gap. What are those common traits do you think that they will have? Is it going to be tech? Is it going to be the mindset? Is it going to be the execution muscle?
I think, look, and at this point in time, it is anybody's, forecasting capability, right? Because the every single day it is unfolding many different aspects of it. But in my view and my perspective is that the culture is going to be very, very different, and it is going to be very critical. There is not going to be a top-down driven way of doing things going forward for enterprises context. Decision making based on these AI capabilities and like I said, co-pilots and agents for everything is going to make the decision decentralized, and it is going to actually make the company become a little more, I would say, autonomous in departments and in various areas, right? That is the first thing, and hence the culture, which is today very rigid, and hierarchical and structured, will not withstand that for a longer time. Because innovation needs to happen at every nook and corner of the company, at every place, right? And I alluded to that in previously, which is today I am at an authority position because I can say that, look, I've spent 30 years in the industry, I have the experience and expertise. But when that experience and expertise is actually democratized and it is captured in a model of very tiny size and it is made available for every single person to leverage and utilize it, you can imagine now, right? The power that has gone to everybody. And of course, there comes responsibility with that power. Then the second aspect of it is, I would say, the way we have looked into task and task management, task allocation to get things done for obvious reasons, and we have continued with that kind of a structural organizational constructs for last 100 years. Is there are hierarchies and hierarchies and hierarchies, and it gets pushed down, and then there are leaders for every single layers. But tomorrow's organizations will probably look at it in a very different way, where I think it is much more flat, much more spread out, and everybody is collaborating with each other, and everybody is collaborating with these intelligent machines along with them, and that is how they're solving problems in a much faster, much agile way. Yeah. The third aspect of it is going to be, which is related to the second. Now, if you have to do that, there is nothing called that I don't know the technology, because everybody needs to know now technology. Some will have to, like we were discussing the T-say, somebody will have to, know it as a very widespread and inch depth, but then there are a few other folks who have to go mile deep into it. But that is how everybody needs to know technology and everybody needs to operate in that technological frameworks. And lastly, I would say that the very foundational aspect that today any business metric you say successful companies, what they go to the market and report around is, I have got this kind of a revenue, growth. I've got this kind of a headcount growth. And that metric going forward is probably not going to sustain a longer,
Oh, is it?
because it would be revenue growth, but may not be proportionately linked to that many number of humans that you have in the team. It is going to be a co-intelligence workforce. It's a mixed workforce which has got smart people and lots of this. We talked about vertical solutions and horizontal solutions, and you get to have a very, very collaborative workforce and frameworks to manage that. So your HR processes are going to look very different. Your hiring processes are going to look very different. Your compensation frameworks are going to be very different. Go-to-market strategies are going to be different, because how do you differentiate then between your offering versus somebody else's offering?
Yeah.
Pricing models are going to be very different. Risk management and risk assessment, those frameworks have to be very different from what we see today. So it's going to be exciting, and it is also a little unnerving as well.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I was just thinking the way the direction in which the world is heading, and if all of our experiences, and we just had that conversation a little while back, if all our experiences can be fit into a model, a lot of people like us and could be out of jobs, or we are just doing the job of training the models, which is also, one way to look at it. But yeah, it is
So, in that aspect, I actually have a very interesting perspective, right? So, today, and you just touched upon it, which is then what is humans like us are going to do who have kind of deep expertise in that area? Well, first thing is, and there is a term called human in the loop. And this is where we will play a significant role in training and fine tuning and nudging the models to actually, I would say, collaborate with us to get that kind of a knowledge base with them, right? But then these are machines, right? Once they capture that knowledge, they can capture more and more and more, and they at certain point in time probably they will match our knowledge base as well. At that point in time, the humans like you and me, we have to actually step up and become the human on the loop, meaning um, I as the expert and having this human aspect of exploration and inquisitiveness and very I would say ability to analyze things and all. We will put that as a human on the loop to observe how these machines are behaving and where they're going right, where they're going wrong. We play that kind of a role, a little bit of a stewardship or a a nurturing role.
Hmm.
And eventually the machines will pick that up as well,
Yeah.
because they're learning every time. These are
Yeah.
cognitive machines now. They learn from every interaction.
Yeah.
Then your question at that point in time, which is probably not immediately now, maybe another 4 or 5 years or maybe a little longer. Then the question again, if we do a podcast at 5 years from now, you will ask, so what will we do now? And hence, at that point in time, we should move on and say now it is a human above the loop,
Hmm.
meaning now I'm defining policies, I'm defining governance frameworks, I'm defining. There are so many of these models, they're talking to each other, they're interacting with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So how do we make those frameworks much more applicable, keeping the risks as well as the rewards in mind? Because a machine can't do that.
Hmm.
That's where human above the loop will have to kind of look into it and then define those processes and procedures. Yeah.
That's a very interesting, perspective. And in fact, I think this is the hook for us for our reel. But yeah, so I mean, the way I look at, and just to kind of recap what we've covered so far. Right? So we talked about data Darwinism. We've talked about how organizations need to work towards reducing that gap. Obviously, we've also touched about how say about 3 or 5 years the organizations will be really have cracked that AI implementation at scale uh, is something that we've covered. Um, but I think one of the things that we have yet to cover is the fact that at the end of the day it is going to be the leaders who are actually going to get organizations there, right? Because it's scaling AI, in my opinion, is just not about those platforms or those playbooks, right? It's about the people steering the ship, and you sit at that intersection, of strategy, innovation, and execution. So for me, I think it's going to be very important to understand, how do you balance that long-term vision with that real-world delivery, uh, and especially in a space as rapidly revolving as AI.
I think, look, there are actually, it is not that very complex, right? We follow, personally, I also follow a very interesting paradigm to that, right? Which is there is something called here and now. Now, this here and now, these problems are very real. This is right in front of us, and we have to solve it. And hence, it requires a very, very agile way of looking at things and then looking at around and seeing, okay, what tools I have, what technologies I have at play, what skill sets that I have to support, and how do I keep solving these kind of problems, right? Um, then there is and that's the way we wrote the Agentic AI playbook. That what is the new? Because there is a now problem, and based on the maturity of technologies and then all that, and how can I solve the now problem? And I equip my leaders with that as well. So there is a AI literacy for that. There is a governance frameworks for that. There is I call it algorithmic empathy, right? That's a skill that the leaders need to have. They can't say that, oh, I don't know what is inside the algorithm.
Hmm.
It's a black box, right? Because if you're in that denial mode, you will never be able to understand why it is recommending something, and what it is recommending for.
Hmm.
Right? So hence there is AI literacy that becomes extremely important for leaders in the now,
Hmm.
and obviously a inch wide of a tech sounding board for them, right?
Hmm.
But then there is, while we are dealing with it, there is a new that is appearing, and the new is bringing more, I would say, unknowns into it.
Correct.
And hence you need to be on a one foot in today and one foot in tomorrow, thinking through that what we are solving now, and how the technology is evolving to address those newer problem statements, and hence how do I prepare
Hmm.
right, the teams and the organizations and my clients to march on that direction, right? Many of those will be experimental in nature because they are not very stable technologies yet. Those innovations have not seen the amount of testing bed it has to go through. So, the second aspect of the leadership has to be experimental in nature, and you must have that perspective that not everything is going to be precise, not everything is going to be successful,
Hmm.
but not doing it is not an option.
Hmm. Hmm. Got it.
So hence you have to experiment, you have to fail, and you have to learn faster, right? But then while you're doing that, there are other things which are around the corner, which are going to be on a disruption mode very quickly, and that is how you need to prepare for the next.
Hmm.
And in the next, a large part of it is going to be, do I see the risks associated with it? Can I assess it properly?
Hmm.
Can I reprioritize
Hmm.
things? Do I actually govern it in a watertight way? And then, hence, if I do that, then I will lag behind others who are going to leapfrog,
Hmm.
versus I actually be in the frontier.
Hmm.
But I'm also looking into the risks associated with it, and I'm managing it better, right? I think that's the next which needs to happen, and the leadership has to go through these transitions
Hmm.
all the time. So that's what is my day and night job is. That's what I would recommend also the fellow CXOs who are going to listen to this podcast, or have interest in this area. That there is a literacy that you need to pick up on AI. There is a experimental mindset that you need to pick up in your arsenal,
Hmm.
and there is a risk management, risk assessment, and governance you need to carry along with it.
Before AI came in, one of the most fascinating here and now, and I guess the future examples that I always thought was about the automotive manufacturing industry, right? Because they're trying to develop vehicles 4 years from now, but they're doing it now. Okay, and I mean, for me, I always found it fascinating because you have to predict what's going to happen, what's going to work, what's not going to work, and build an entire production pipeline around it, along with your supply chains, and then hope that it flies. Because if it doesn't, then you've really put out across the whole R&D. And what, now that I look at AI, I think it's that here and now. I mean, that was a 4 years. Now you're talking like a month. In a month, there could be so many things that could be changing. So for me, like I said, on just on a sidebar, I just thought that I mean, I draw a lot of parallelism in terms of how it used to happen before and now, with AI, how it's completely changed. But yeah, I mean, fantastic conversation so far. So before we wrap up, we'd love to take a little detour, a quick sprint into your personal side. I mean, the way I look at it, behind every tech visionary is a chai break or a favorite song or a book that changed everything. So let's have a little fun before we close. I'll throw some fire questions your way. Feel free to go with your instinct. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready all the time.
What's a morning ritual you swear by?
Well, I take my German Shepherd on a walk, and I enjoy actually the German Shepherd bugging the cats on the road, and not following the orders, and then just sneaking around, going here and there, and then that's a good way to begin the day with a lot of uncertainties, and
Pleasures, simple pleasures of life. Are you a coffee person or a tea person?
well, that's a tricky question. I'm actually a coffee person. I love coffee, but once in a day, my wife prepares tea.
Hmm.
So I have to also be a one cup
Tea
tea
person.
person.
Okay. What's that one app you use most in a day?
Well, I mean, WhatsApp,
What's that one gadget you can't live without?
my Kindle.
A movie or a series you've watched more than twice?
Well, the two, and you can term me as an old fashioned guy, but two I loved and I keep going back to it, every now and then. Two movies. One is Angur. It's a very old
Yeah, yeah,
movie.
I'm aware. Yeah.
Sanjeev Kumar playing double role, hilariously funny, and all that. I enjoy it all the time. And the second is a little thinking movie, and little, I would say, uncertainties around every single thing is called Ek Ruki Hui Faisla.
Okay.
It is about a jury of and consisting of 12 folks, and then they're trying to deliberate on a murder. Yeah, and you can look up it. It's really, really, really very, very intense. And
There's a research that says that people who watch the same content so many times are far more emotionally intelligent than others. I pride myself on that because I just like to repeat the same things, because there's more predictability. You don't have those jump of emotions all the time. But yeah, what's that one book that you're reading right now that you would recommend?
it's a very interesting and funny title, though. Okay,
Okay.
I must tell you, it is called AI Snake Oil.
Oh, interesting.
So the perspective is snake oil, right? Snake oil, is it really real, or
Yeah.
does it do this stuff, or
Hmm.
does it really work? All that. And here is a very, while we spoke a lot of time about AI, its implications, impact, good things about it, there is also a different perspective emerging. Is it a snake oil?
Got it.
I'm right now reading it.
Oh, fantastic. I think it's going to be an interesting read. I'm going to Google that for myself later. What's your go-to comfort food?
Go to comfort. Food is. And I belong to Oriya fellow, so I go back to plain simple rice and dalma.
We, in fact, recently hired a couple of months back someone from Bhubaneswar. And I was having this conversation, what's your favorite food? And she said the same thing to me.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to try it myself. There are a couple of Odia places, but she said, I'll make it for you and get it. Don't go to those places. So I'm looking forward to that. What's that one thing that sometimes people misunderstand about
People, I look like a thinker. I do actually a lot of thinking and all, and people think that, okay, is this guy really doing something or just wandering around?
you? Would you rather build something or fix something?
I would rather build something. I'm an innovation driven guy, and then I take the pleasure of building and building new, building something untested, uncharted, than go and fix something which was built earlier and then it is not working well. I mean, there is a different charm in that, but I enjoy building something new, non-existent.
What's that one song that instantly lifts your mood?
Anything Kishorda.
And just the last couple of them, what's that one skill you wish you had mastered earlier?
I would say, how do I actually deep dive into innovation much earlier and much deeper, and probably have hundreds of patents. Although you see there is a patent picture right behind me, but I would have loved to have hundreds of patents and research papers on my name.
All right, and just the final one before we let you go. Do you believe in luck or preparation?
Well, tough question though. I believe that a lot of preparation is needed to even get that luck.
That's one way to put it. Fantastic. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Discover Dialogues. A huge thank you to you, Som, for joining us today. For not only breaking down, the whole enterprise AI gap, but also reframing it as almost a leadership opportunity. Uh, the kind of the kind of mindset shifts, the talent shifts that probably organizations have to make. I think the conversation was full of insights, and I had a fantastic time talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us today once again. Any parting words?
My pleasure, and I also enjoyed talking to you, especially when you also recognize that dalma as a word, as a dish. That was the aha
That was
moment
the
for me.
highlight. I'm so glad at the end of this podcast we found that wavelength. So next time I'm around, maybe in Bangalore, we'll go and find maybe the craziest Odia place which serves really authentic dalma and have it together.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.